everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ask an Actor. This time we're doing things a little bit differently, and I'm here with my co-founder of Jumpstart Youth Theatre, Emma Wright. Hello. So we're doing this episode a little bit differently to usual. It's going to be a little less interviewee style and a bit more of just a general chat where we're both going to get involved. Both going to talk about our own journeys in our careers and how we ended up where we are today.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to it.
Yay. So Emma, tell us a little bit about you.
Oh gosh, where to start? I'm Emma. I've been living in Sydney and working in the industry here for the past 5 years. I moved down in September of 2015 from the Gold Coast, from Queensland. Before that, I did a bachelor degree in film and television production at Bond University. And so I kind of have this production background, which I think is really valuable as someone who is predominantly an actor. So yeah, I have that background, and I also have a theatre company which I founded with two dear friends and collaborators, Jess Davis, who's a director, and Simon Thompson, who is a bit of everything: actor, writer, director, dramaturg extraordinaire. And so the three of us founded Eye Contact Theatre Company in, I believe, 2018, end of 2018. And we had our first production in October of last year, 2019. And we're supposed to present our second work as a company this year, which got unfortunately postponed, as so much theatre did due to COVID. But we will be back in 2021 at the King's Cross Theatre. And yeah, that's the basics of Emma.
Absolutely. And I guess before we jump back in time, we should also just talk about where we are today, which is on Zoom. You're not here. Where are you, Emma?
I am on the Gold Coast. I found myself, I was in Tasmania on a little trip, a little holiday with my partner when COVID sort of was unleashed on the world. We were on this lovely getaway, and all of a sudden the world was sort of flipped on its head. And I had a flight booked back to Queensland to spend a bit of time with my family before I went back to Sydney. Of course, got back to Queensland, and at which point the borders sort of all were shutting down. So I decided to sort of stay put. I had a few gigs booked in that, of course, were cancelled or postponed. So I didn't have work to go back to. So I thought I'd sort of stay here and stay where it was safe for the time being. And I'm still here. I will be back in Sydney, but I ended up booking a job, a production of A Midsummer Night's Dream with the Brisbane Shakespeare Festival. So I'm doing that, which opens next month, which is very exciting. I love Shakespeare. And so yeah, that's keeping me here for the time being. And I'll be back to Sydney, at least I think, at the end of November.
Absolutely. And of course, we founded Jumpstart Youth Theatre while Emma was in Queensland. So we have never been together for this journey, but that's why we created the company. It was a time where it was really hard to keep doing drama, and we wanted to be able to find a way to keep going, keep doing what we love, keep sharing what we love with young people, and doing it all over Zoom and screen. So it feels only right that we are here today over Zoom and screens recording this interview.
Indeedy. Crazy.
And I feel like I haven't really shared anything about me.
No, introduce yourself, Lucy.
On this is the 6th episode. Who is hosting this thing? So I'm obviously the other half of Jumpstart Youth Theatre. These days, I very much go by the title of director. That's my chosen art form these days. But that has been after a journey of through the performing arts and trying out many different roles, which I really look forward to talking about today as well. I started at, I went to WAPA. Well, I did lots of things before WAPA, which we'll get into today as well, but I went to WAPA still thinking I would be an actress as well. I did a course there called the Performing Arts, Performance Making, that's what it was called. It was actually the first year of that course. So I was very much a guinea pig year group, which was very interesting. but it definitely was what I needed, because it wasn't just acting. It gave me a little bit of everything. It gave me a bit of producing, a bit of directing, and a bit of playwriting. And post university, that's actually, I just fell in love with those other art forms and have ended up following that route. Particularly when I moved to Sydney, and I did my first lot of auditions. And I'll keep this brief, we'll hopefully go into it more later, but just saw so many amazing young women in my own demographic, and like young women straight out of drama school who competed with these same few roles in the industry, and wanting to support them with, putting on works for them rather than competing for them for it. And in that way, Emma and I have got to work together a lot, because Emma's one of those amazing actresses that I've had the opportunity to work with. So yeah, that's a bit about me before we jump straight in.
Jump in.
Yeah, and maybe we should, shall we?
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Well, the first thing we were hoping to talk about together is to take it right back. We've talked about why we're here and being on screens and all of that, but to go right back in time before university, even talk about how on earth we got involved in the arts. How did this bug get caught?
Yes. So I think I knew that I wanted to be in the arts, to be in the performing arts, before I probably knew what that entailed, or that was even really a career or a something that you could do with your life. I was always kind of the entertainer of the family. It's so wonderful listening to the previous episodes of this series, hearing, I think Amy Hack spoke a lot about it, putting on shows for your family and like wrangling your brothers and sisters. And, I'm one of 4 kids. So it meant I had a little bit to work with. And yeah, I was just always, I always loved storytelling. And I think any opportunity, we road tripped a lot as a family. And so there was a lot of time sitting in a car. This was sort of before all these smartphones and iPads and any of that. So we didn't have that technology. So old. I'm not, but before we were sort of glued to our devices, we were in a car, the 6 of us, and we had music on, and we sort of had to pass the time. And I think I sort of reveled in the fact that that I could offer something, and I could tell stories and entertain my siblings and probably annoy my parents. And I think I really sort of caught the bug when I got involved with a local community theatre. I feel like I've told this story so many times, but my elder sister, my parents wanted her to get involved, just to sort of increase her confidence. She was quite shy and had difficulty sort of, interacting or talking with strangers, and mum and dad both wanted her to sort of just have a bit of a confidence boost. So they thought that drama would be a really excellent way to do that, which it is. And I sort of tagged along. I don't think my parents kind of intended for me to be involved in any capacity, but I saw the space, obviously, and I knew what my sister was doing, and so I sort of snuck my way on in there. And that I think I was 5, so I think everybody sort of thought, oh, there's this very cute little kid who wants to have a little moment in the spotlight. So I pushed my way in. I sang a rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I choreographed like little hand movements. I had it all, performance ready.
She was a star.
Oscar-winning performance right there.
Yeah. Peaked. She peaked young.
Yeah, I peaked. I have not yet gotten back to where I was in that moment. And then my sister and I both got involved with this community theatre. We did, and I think my other 2 siblings also did. because they had workshops and sort of after school programs as well as productions, which Zoe and I both did. Excuse, you can probably hear some doggos barking in the background. I'm on a hobby farm, so there are lots of dogs and animals, so excuse the noise. But yeah, and I think that's where I fell in love with it. And I sort of carried that on through school, not so much in school, but more so outside of school as an extracurricular sort of activity. And I think it was probably when I was about maybe 12 or so that I then really sort of got this idea in my head that this is what I was going to do as a career. I don't think it was until my early teens when I went, okay, this is more than just something which I love and which I have a lot of fun doing. This is something that I seriously want to pursue. And yeah, I think that's my story.
Yeah. So you said like a keyword that sort of thing then was storytelling was the beginning for you. And of
Totally.
course, since then when did you get the playwriting bug?
Oh gosh, I think I'd always loved writing. And I think that, I think the two really go hand in hand, or at least have done so in my journey. I was always writing. I would write, poems, short stories. I was writing a novel at one point. It was something that always came quite easily. I could just sort of, get a pen and paper and I would just go, which is something which I think you lose as you get older. And I think as you start to become a little bit more critical and self-conscious. But as a younger person, I was it was just something that I got a lot of joy out of. And I'd write.
An extrovert child?
See, this is an interesting thing. I don't think so. No, but I was, and I think this is a big part of my story is that I found this real confidence in when I was performing and when I was in a character. And I think the line probably blurred more when I was younger, and I think I became more introverted or more self-conscious and not quite so out there as I got older, especially approaching sort of those teenage years. But no, I think as Emma, I was always quite inward, but I would just find so many opportunities to like become a character and to become someone other than myself. And that was kind of a part of my big part of my childhood. Like I looking back through family photos, like I was always dressed up. Like I was always in some sort of costume. I was always dressed as a ballerina or a fairy. Like I think I lived a lot of my childhood in a real like fantasy world, which is interesting. And I think the arts have kind of played a really significant role in my life in sort of learning to merge or learning to bring the confidence that I have when I'm a performer into myself. And in life we have to play roles to get by, right? And through the arts we get to really explore that. But it's sort of a journey of learning that, yes, you may be playing roles, but you're always having to be true to yourself. I mean, like in performing, you always have to have that truth.
Life lessons of drama.
Yeah, so many life lessons. And Luce, you had a little bit of a different journey, a different
absolutely. Well, my journey hasn't started yet in terms of age timelines. What we're up to with you, but mine very much started. So my sister was she's 7 years older than me, and she went. So we had I'm from Perth. Start there. From Perth, so over west. And when I didn't know drama in primary school, drama wasn't part of my life. I mean, we did, the in school performances, and I always took a pretty big role. And like I was always very like extroverted, loved being big and getting in people's faces. So like it was always a natural kind of draw for me, but never to the point that I did it out of school or did classes or anything. It was all in school. I seem to I remember like me and my childhood best friends like making little movies together, you know, so we definitely like explored that stuff, but always in a really like fun, childish way, and it was never like this is a passion or we're making anything that's, you know, it was always that. So my journey so I never considered acting, but I was, I suppose, watching my sister, who, you know, was that block older than me, go through our local performing arts school, which was John Curtin over there. And so she got into that program, and I went to her shows, and they did really big musical every 2 years. And so my mom and dad loved those musicals. They went to the ones my sister wasn't even in, you know, and they'd go twice, you know, to the ones we weren't in. They were really awesome. So I used to go to those. And my sister has always, like through my childhood, through my teenage years, was always a really big inspiration to me. She better never listen to this. Don't tell her. But I definitely really followed hardcore in her footsteps. So my parents really said to me, any high school you want to go to, go for it. You know, like you choose you, which I loved. And I auditioned for the musical theatre program and for the drama program at John Curtin. I got into both, and I knew I wanted to do musical theatre. That's what my sister had done. She'd done musical theatre from years 8 to years 10, and then she'd done the drama program from year 11 and 12, because they didn't offer musical theatre in the upper school. So that was the journey that I was going to go down. I was going to do the big musicals. But saying that, I just really fell in love with the people who auditioned me for the drama program, and that they did a lot of selling spin on me as well, compared to the musical theatre program, where it kind of felt I was a bit out of place. So, and they really encouraged me to pick drama, so I did. And that was a big part of it, is that they didn't offer it in upper school, so they were like, this is something you can take all the way through. Musical theatre will end at some point, so that's where my journey began. And it was awesome being in a performing arts school. So we did it 4 times a week from year 8.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so it was, you know, and it was really at a school level, but we got that fundamental stuff, you know. We did Greek theatre and all, you know, we did all that stuff earlier, I think, than most people would in high school, I'd say. Yeah,
totally. And even just that, I think it's, you know, training is such a big part of any artist's discipline, of any artist's sort of career and journey. You know, we're constantly training, and I think your art is really elevated when you have the time to practice.
Yeah.
So even having that dedicated time on in your week to you know, work those muscles and work that part of the brain, and I think that's amazing, especially as a young person to have that opportunity, because that can only better your craft, and you're going to just grow so much faster, I guess, than you would if you didn't have that.
Totally. And it didn't feel like that at the time. Like it really felt like in school drama, where, you know, like at the time it didn't feel like training, I suppose. And, you know, high schools, you have really amazing teachers that inspire you sometimes, and you have other years where you're like, oh. So for me, it's funny to look back on it as like training, because it definitely didn't feel like that at the time. But I guess it really, and when I did go, I mean, year 11 and 12 were much more serious, and that was quite a bit more intensive, and I did feel more prepared, I suppose, when I went to WAPA than others. But through that time, I didn't get an agent. I really was like doing like in-school drama only. And I wasn't a standout either, you know, like I always did well and I always got good marks. But when I went, you know, I never got lead roles in the shows or anything. So yeah, it was interesting in terms of that as well.
But at that point, you know, even without, you know, getting those front and center roles, did you still like, is that where the passion really kicked in? Did you get a real sense of this is what you wanted to do, or was it still sort of following in the footsteps?
Yeah,
bit of both.
straight out, I loved doing it, and I always was really appreciative to be doing it with the mindset of like, I enjoy school, because usually, like, 4 out of 5 days of my week I was doing drama, at least for one period, and that was always really enjoyable, and really fun. And I felt the same about visual art as well. I did that, particularly in upper school, and like I really enjoyed my time at school because of these art stuff. So that's really what I think I was taking in the time. As a career, I didn't think I was going to do it while I was in high school. And again, it really fluctuated year to year depending on who was a good teacher that year. So like in year 10 or 11, I think in year 11, I had the most amazing science teacher. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to be, I think it was year 10 even, I was like, I'm going to be a zoologist. And that's what I really dedicated myself to. And so I was doing chemistry and biology in upper school. And then another year I had a not as good biology teacher, and it just like that, it just fizzled, for me.
Dreams gone.
The dreams went. And I think in that last year of high school, I had 2 really amazing drum teachers. Funnily enough, the person who auditioned me, she actually left our school to go somewhere else and then came back in my upper school years. So I got her back.
Wow,
and then my other teacher is now like the vice principal of the school. He's incredible as well. So I had them back for my final year. And again, it was just like boom, and an inspirational teacher is all you need. And then I did do really well in year 12. I came 3rd in my state. Again, marks I always did well in. The performances not as much, but there you go. Casting didn't like me yet, but that was like, okay, I do need to consider this, I suppose, more, because clearly it's the thing I did best in at school. And I guess that's my journey in those formative, those early years. And then of course, when I left school, I took a gap. I still didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. I had given up biology. Like, I think that dream was gone.
No zoology.
What happened was I went to UWA, and my dad took me in, and we had a meeting there with like the head of the zoology department. And I went in, and I really, like, my love was for like reptiles and mammals, and and he was like, oh, no, nobody in zoology studies that. You're going to be doing microscopic animals under the ground for your whole life. And go and talk to this person about frogs. And that was it. Wow. That really, like, that dissipated. So that wasn't on the radar anymore, but I thought I would my mindset was I'll take a gap year and just see what I miss. And what I found was, because, when you do school so intensely for those final 5 years, you have no idea what your life's going to be like without that in it. And straight away I found that I stopped visual art. Like, I didn't pick up a pencil and pad again. It's like to this day. That just left as soon as I didn't have to do it anymore, even though I really enjoyed it at the time. I really wanted to do nursing. That was a big thing that was a big choice for me right up until the day I said yes to WAPA. I got into both and had to make that decision. And I didn't think I was going to get into WAPA, so I very much was dedicated to being a nurse. And the other thing, I think that those were the main ones. But and then when I was in my gap year, I started like auditioning for community theatre. Like, that was my first time in the outside world. And I went for those, and I did youth theatre, and I went to Waco, and I went hard on those opportunities. And that's when I figured, okay, clearly I missed this, because look at me trying to find ways to act again.
Wow. I think that's, my journey is obviously a little bit different, but I think, there is so much pressure on young people to sort of, to figure out what they're going to do so quickly. And I think, as you say, like, it's drilled into you in those last few years, and the pressure of that choice can be quite enormous. And I think taking that year and kind of figuring out what you miss, I think that's really great advice, because we should be doing things that make us happy as much as is possible. And even if you're integrating that into your life in not necessarily your career, but you're finding other ways to give yourself those joyous moments. I think that's That's really cool.
Yeah, and I do feel like I did better in school because of that. You know, my school really believed in that. My parents, so I was surrounded by people who all had the same ethos that do what you really enjoy, and you'll get better marks. Like my school literally had a rule that if you were in the drama program, you were not allowed to give it up in year 11 and 12.
Wow.
It was compulsory to do it because they just saw the kids do so much better.
Yeah.
Like they got better ATARs because they stuck with it. So you had to make a meeting with the principal if you were considering dropping it. You know, like it was really big. So yeah, absolutely. I really believe in that still, and that's how you're going to find out what you want to do with the rest of your life, if you follow things you enjoy. And usually we enjoy things because we're good at them. You know, I hated maths. If I was a genius in maths, I probably wouldn't have hated maths. You know.
Absolutely. I think that is true. I think, and even if we're not naturally gifted at something, if we love it and if we enjoy it, I think you're going to be so much more driven and motivated to actually improve in that area, and to go out there and be a sponge and absorb all the knowledge and the skills, and you'll grow rather than trying to fit square peg into circular hole, whichever way around it is, and shove yourself into something that you don't have a passion for, or it's just not going to end so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like what you were saying before as well, of that there is a lot of pressure to decide what you're going to do when you're quite young. And I think that's really inflated in the arts as well. I mean, look, like dancers, you really do have to start when you're 3.
Yeah, for sure.
And there is that sometimes that sense around acting too. You see these amazing child stars and they grow up to be stars. And we see that a lot. And for you did start quite young. And like, I always learn more and more about you. It's so funny how little I actually know about you in these early years, even though we talk every day. But yeah, you had some big projects that you did, right? When you were quite young.
Yeah. I mean, I did a bit. I mean, yeah, look, so I started obviously quite young and was doing, these theatre productions with this community theatre. My family then we moved from New South Wales to Queensland. And at that point, I think I think things are changing in the industry here now, but at that point there was very little in the theatre landscape in Queensland. And so I sort of fell out of touch with it. And my focus shifted more to screen. There were probably a few years in there which, I mean, I don't think I had any sort of extracurricular performing outlets. And, my parents were always very encouraged all of us to not get too tunnel visioned too quickly. And as much as they've always supported our dreams and our ambitions, and been really, as you said, been really supportive of us following our passions. I think they also wanted to make sure that, we explored a few things, and we, because, I mean, how are you going to know what the most, the thing you enjoy most, unless you taste a few things and figure out it for yourself. So, I dabbled in a few different things during that time, and was still very, very young.
I was going to say, because you, of course, a spoiler for later in the story, you then went to university when you were 15. So clearly it was quite young still that you did say, okay, I'm doing this.
yes, it was pretty young. And I started, I think it was, early teens. I was always a big researcher. When I, side story, but when I decided to become a vegetarian, I did all this research, compiled, this whole presentation for my parents as to why this is what I need to do. That was just the way I sort of operated. And I did the same thing for acting. I did a lot of research, and the thing that kept coming up was you need to have an agent, which, and my parents are not from an arts background. My dad's a GP. My mum's now in real estate, but she's been in management and had, they have not had careers in the arts. So, and no one really in my family has done. So it was very new for all of us. but I was doing this Googling, doing this researching, and
And how old were you for this? What age were you
I
putting this?
think I was probably about 12.
Okay. Baby Emma.
Yeah, baby.
I'm not even in high school yet. So this is, before this even begins for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I started researching local agents, and I found one that looked pretty good, and my mum took me along for a meeting and signed with them and was with them for a little while before moving on to another agent.
And was that how easy it was? It was just like turn up, have an interview.
Pretty much. I mean, I think really, because I was such a baby, I think they were signing young faces for commercials and for, extra roles. I don't think that at that point I was taken very seriously, nor probably should I have been, because I was a baby. But yeah, so I don't think there was anything like, it wasn't like I went to the top representation in Australia and they signed me. It was very much just like small boutique agency that have, some actors that work a little bit, but nothing huge. And from there, I think I started doing short films. I think I booked my first short film when I was, around that age. I think I was like in year 7. And that was enormously exciting. Like, I thought that was like my career made. I was like, I'm in a short film, guys. But I loved it. I loved it so, so, so much. And, I'd been taking classes outside of school. I had a drama teacher in school that I did private lessons with. And, I'm not sure if it's the same in other states, but the Eisteddfod scene was really big here. So I did a lot of the drama Eisteddfods, and I did like drama exams. I don't know if they were AMEB or something. And again, I'm not sure if this is still a thing or if it exists outside of Queensland.
None of these words ring in
anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was doing that, and I think at a similar time I started dancing. So I was quite late to that. Which I found a bit difficult, because I always think I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder, because I was like, if I had have started this earlier, I would be so much better.
And was that with the pursuit in mind of, I want to be an actor? Like, was that to all help this acting career that you were building for yourself?
Totally. And look, and I mean, I struggle to tell you, I struggle to say when it was that I even now, like, it's never really been a case of like, I'm going to go to Hollywood and I'm going to like be a name and blah, 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 blah. I think it's always just been, I just want to act. And if that's, it doesn't matter at, how big or small the stage is, or, how big the project is. This is just something I want to do. And I think that was all part of it as well. Like, there were still other things I was, I played many musical instruments, and, I thought maybe I'd be a musician, and I thought maybe I'd go into medicine.
Very close together,
Oh yeah, like similar.
Dabble in one, dabble in the other.
So like, there were still other like dreams that I had. Yes, it's very dreamy, but I think I just knew that whatever I did, acting would be a part of my life. But as I got older, I think it sort of pushed everything else out of the picture. But yeah, started dancing, wasn't very good at it. I did it for a number of years. I did 1 year of full-time dance. I don't know, I could pick up choreography, and I could perform, but I wasn't flexible, and I wasn't graceful. But I think it taught me a lot in terms of being not being the best person in the room at something really tests you. And I think it shows you your strengths, and it shows you, like, it just teaches you a lot of lessons about discipline and working hard and resilience. It was an environment that did teach me a lot. And it was a bit the same with singing. I did did a lot of singing. I wrote for a little while as well, and recorded songs, which feels like it wasn't really a part of my life, but it was. And again, like, I don't think that was, I mean, neither dance nor singing was something that came as naturally to me, I think, as acting did. But yeah, I think in the back of my brain, I was like, I want to make myself this, like, you know, well-rounded artist who can do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
And my view, I think, was, you know, if I excel maybe at one of these things, it'll lead me back to acting, or maybe it'll help me get a foot in the door for what I actually want to do. So I think there was a bit of that. And I think there's also a expectation, at least on the Gold Coast when I was growing up, that if you were an actor, you kind of had to do the other things too.
I felt that as well, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, it could be quite, I think it's quite so competitive as a young, I mean, the industry full stop is competitive, but, you know, I think when you're young and you're trying to, you know, you're doing something that you love, but you're also comparing yourself to all these other people. And, you know, you're also, just that young mentality of like, I have to be good at this and I have to show that I can do this. I think,
being the best.
Yeah. And, you know, and when it comes into school and you're being marked for it, and it can be quite full on. And, but regardless, I sort of stuck at it, and my love for it continued, and I think was strengthened as I got older, and I sort of stepped away from a few of the other things and just went, okay, it's really the acting that is the thing I love, and sort of ran with that. But
and of course, the thing that you never talk about, but I only found out about you because I stalked your Facebook the other day, is that in those formative years, either 12 up, you also started modeling. So where did that fit into the picture of all this? And did that help with your acting career, or is that just something you I know you don't model anymore, so
no,
is that something you would recommend for young women who are looking at acting? Like, was that a support, you know, building that career?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I don't even really remember how it started. I think it was a similar thing of seeing that this was something that actors did.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And so again, it was approached an agency, and
this was a different agency.
Yeah. So for a while I had two different, one for modeling and one for acting. But and look, I think it was like, in my mind, I was like, well, I enjoy acting on screen, and, you know, I'd done a little bit of work by that point. I think I booked my first TV role. And so, you know, it was something screen, and because all my training was screen based, because it was just so much more accessible here, rather than theatre, which I think is kind of the opposite in Sydney, maybe. I'm not sure.
Definitely. In my experience in Perth, that was the same as well.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think I had this idea of, okay, well, modeling's kind of just like acting, but in stills, photographs, or on a runway. It's still performance based. So I think I sort of thought, oh, it's a different form of storytelling, so I'll sort of give it a go. And because, you know, I'd seen people, or tracked other people's careers who had gone down that path, so I was like, sure. I'm not sure if I would recommend it. I think, I mean, I have some really positive memories and had some positive experiences. There are a few shoots that I did that, you know, I really enjoyed, because they were more storytelling focused, you know, and I was really playing a role, which I enjoyed. And, you know, working with a camera and working with props, or a setting, like I enjoyed that. But I think, for me personally, I just found the industry, and, you know, I think a lot of this is changing, but I just found it really difficult and quite toxic. And I think as a young person who was still very much grappling with, you know, self-esteem and, you know, self-confidence, and sort of feeling like I was like I had worth as a human being to go into this industry that's very much, or for me at least, was very much, walk into a room, have someone judge you by, how good of a coat hanger you are, and then walk out. Like I think I found it too difficult, and it just wasn't. I think it wasn't a great fit for me. So I stuck at it for a little while. I never had, huge success with it. But I had some good jobs, but I think part of me was also like, oh, if I can make a little bit of income from this, that's great.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think I sort of stepped out of that by the time I was maybe 16 or so. I'd stepped away. But yeah, look, I think all of these experiences have shaped me as a person. So I don't regret them. I think my only, I think with modeling in particular, I think the only thing I think it's important to put out there is just, I think you have to be really thick-skinned and really, I mean, you do in all aspects of the arts, but that's a lot particularly for someone who's young, to kind of be able to be in those situations and in those castings and be able to, not let it really get to you, which I think it can, especially I think if you are someone who's more sensitive, it can be really difficult, especially when we already have enough things to contend with as young women and young anyone. And, we have all these societal pressures as to how we look, how we present ourselves, and to sort of be in an industry that revolves around that and really targets that. It's not for everyone.
Yeah. Do you think it did support your career at all as an actor? Did you feel any crossovers or anything you got because you met people on set, or was it really just this whole separate being?
I think it was mostly a separate being. I mean, there are a few crossovers. Certainly met people. It was more so just a case of having a little bit, having more familiar faces out there in the pond. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had such different journeys, as I was saying before, for me, high school drama was so much fun. Hey, and I never really felt any pressure to do with it at all. Until maybe year 12, where it was like, maybe I should start taking this more seriously. But then it was only even then in a school sense and in a mark sense. Yeah. I certainly didn't have any of, that feeling of the competition yet, or anything like that. Yeah, that's such a different world to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it probably does come back to the school. I didn't go to none of the schools I went to were performing arts schools. But I think, one of the schools I went to, which I think most is where most of what I talked about, the experiences have come from, was just full stop, was very competitive across the board. And we had a very difficult year group, which we were told, every year. And I think there was just a level of, there was just competition, I think, in all aspects. And I felt, and I think it's also it probably came from me as well, because I always put an enormous amount of pressure on myself. I was very tightly wound in school, and I pushed myself very, very hard. So I think it probably does come from that, where I was at as well as there being some external factors, but probably a lot of it was just coming from me and just coming from my desire to fit in and to do well and to prove myself and prove my worth. So yeah, I think that's where that came from.
Yeah, super interesting. And of course, you were saying that you were having one-on-one acting lessons. What age are we talking there?
Oh gosh, from probably quite young. I mean, my parents did it for, I think all four of us did it.
Wow.
In school. And I think it was quite common as well. Again, I think it was like a tool for for building confidence, for public speaking, for all that kind of jazz. And all four of us did it.
Instead of like a group acting class, which we definitely see more commonly in Sydney, and we run ourselves. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, and that didn't really exist as much. Well, and I did do some, did a fair bit of outside of school classes with other people. But yeah, I think I don't know how common that is. Maybe it was unique, but I feel like not most of, but a lot of my peers, fellow students did it. It was just kind of a thing.
We certainly did that for music. Like if you were playing an instrument, you'd have one-on-one or singing. But I don't think anyone around me had done a private acting lesson, I feel.
Wow, that's so interesting. I wonder how unique that is. Certainly within my school, it wasn't unique. Yeah, it was just like you went for your music lesson and you went to a drama lesson, Wow. But yeah, obviously people took that, as far as they wanted. But I think for all four of us, it was really, really valuable for different reasons. I mean, we talk about this a lot, the value of the arts, and how transferable the skill set is that you build, and how, even if you're not interested in a career or a future in the arts, how that sort of that environment and the skills that you work through drama, in drama, are so across the board. They're going to assist you wherever you end up.
Yes. And I really felt that in school. That's one thing I really took away from drama was, English is easy for me now. Like I understand text, public speaking assessments, so easy, it made a huge difference to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're up to my story. I'm 17, I'm leaving school, but you've got a bit more to tell. Here's about you. So of course at 15 for you decided to go to university. So I'm interested, why did you choose to go to university at that time? And why did you choose that over, obviously you already had an agent, you were already building a career for yourself in acting. What made you want to do graduate study rather than kind of just explore the industry as a sole trader?
Yeah, interesting. So I sort of, as I've sort of alluded to, I did move around between a few schools. My last 2 years of schooling, so my year 9, I homeschooled, and then I went back to a physical school for year 10. And I finished year 10, and then I started at Bond University the following year, so for my in replacement of my year 11 and year 12. I had my year 10, I had 2 incredible teachers. I had an English teacher who was amazing, and a drama teacher who was also just beautiful. And they're probably 2 of my most positive most positive school experiences. I really I think getting through that year, I owed a lot to them, because they really made me feel so great at school. But having said that, school was never really a very positive experience for me. As we've touched on, as a young person, I had big battles with wanting to fit in and feeling like I was sort of different and on the outside, and that turned into quite a a negative relationship with myself, which was sort of not helped by this school environment, particularly at one of the schools I went to, which I mean, for me it was pretty toxic, and I didn't have I didn't really have people in the school to support me, it just wasn't a great time for little Emma. And my year 10 was fine, but I think I just came to the realization that I love learning, and I I really enjoy being in the classroom, but I think I kind of got to the point of like the school system, I think is flawed in that not it's not designed for difference. It's designed to be this one mold that everyone passes through. And I think for me, I wasn't built for it. And, the social side of things I found very difficult. And I think I also started just to feel like this isn't a place for me. Like I had such a strong sense of what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to be working on.
I love that the story is I didn't feel like school was for me, so I went to university.
It's
where to go.
It's interesting. And again, I think that's because it was the learning I enjoyed, but I wanted to be in an institution that was really catered to where my passion and my skill set was.
Yeah.
And I think as well, I think I needed a change in environment. And I think, I grew up as someone who always, I always wanted to be at the grown-ups table, and I always wanted to, being involved in the community theatre. I was, around people that were like much older than me, and I felt much more comfortable there. And I think I probably always had a bit of a, maybe wanting to grow up too fast, and then having some life experiences that sort of pushed me to maybe grow up too fast. Maybe I don't necessarily believe in that, but and so the university environment I think was appealing because of that. And again, it was a period of school was wrapping up for the year, and I was not very happy. And my parents and I sort of put our heads together and were like, all right, let's research what the alternatives are. Ideally, I would have left school and gone straight into a drama school. I think that probably would have been my ideal, but that wasn't really, we never really went so far as pursuing that, because I think there was no one who had, to our knowledge, done that before.
Never. They usually say 17-year-olds are too young, let alone.
Totally. And, I was very, very aware of that. And my elder sister had just started at Bond University, and it was a private uni. So as such, obviously, I guess things are a little bit more flexible. They're making the rules. And through research, discovered that this young girl, I think she was maybe 16, had started at the uni, and sort of saw that path and was like, oh gosh, yeah, that's what I want to do. I'm not going to be studying performance, but I could study film and television production, which was also appealing to me because I think I'd always imagined that my career would probably be, I'd probably dabble in a few different areas of the arts.
Yeah.
And I always sort of liked that idea. And because I've been on quite a few film sets, I was intrigued by, how it all worked. And I thought to myself, if I knew more about this process, that would make me a better actor, and give me, a skill set to fall back on when there isn't, work as an actor. So yeah, it was just a case of approaching the uni. So Bond University, I'm not sure if this still exists, but they had a bridging program, which was designed for students who had left school, graduated school, left school, whatever the case was, who had entered the workforce and had decided at some point in their career that they wanted to go back and get a tertiary qualification. So it's this 2-semester. Bond University works in trimesters, so 3 semesters a year. So it was 2 semesters in which you got 2 credit points towards your degree, 1 each semester, and you also did So 4 subjects. So the other 3 subjects didn't count towards the degree, but were sort of preparing you for studying at university, essentially. And so that's what I did. So I went in there for an interview with my parents, and took in my sort of I don't know what's it called, like my track record from school, to be like, this is what these are my grades, this is where I'm at, my reports, and sort of just had a conversation. I think we were in and out in maybe an hour max. I feel like it was less than that. Sent them my transcripts. I think that's what they are, transcripts, and sent all that through for them to look over, and was accepted. So I started there at 15.
And were you getting like really good marks? Like, was that would you have been, was that part of this, is that they were like, yeah, clearly she's not a normal year 11?
Yeah. I mean, I worked my butt off. And yeah, I mean, my year 10, I think I'd sounds so I topped all my subjects bar maths and physics.
Yeah. So they were like, you can't do maths and physics here, but I suppose you can come do the rest.
You can do the rest. Yeah, and I think they looked over my reports, they looked over some examples of my work, and deemed that I'd be okay, or I'd be able to get by in this university setting. And it was kind of this gentle easing in, because I had the 2 semesters before my degree actually started.
Yes.
But yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, I look back on it now and it's a bit crazy, but for me it felt pretty normal. Like it felt very right, and I think I grew so much, and I was suddenly so much happier, and I think it was just a really great environment for me, especially once I got into the degree, where I was I was studying things that I was really interested in, that I enjoyed, and university learning is very different to school learning, because you have to a lot of it's so much more self-guided. Like you don't have people sort of peering over your shoulders, making sure you're attending classes, blah 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 blah. And I think that worked for me. I think I enjoyed that independence, or that being treated like an adult. But yeah, it was a learning curve. I remember I think when I first started and I met a few my fellow students, they're like, oh, we're going to go across, drive across to the pub, sort of which is a 5-minute drive from campus. And I was like, yeah, I'll come along. And I hopped in the car and we drove over, and we got in, and I saw the sign at the door being like 18+, and I was like, because I didn't want to tell anyone.
This is the story of your life, Emma.
Story of my life. And but I went in, and I didn't have an ID or anything, and we got kicked out because of me. And because we were a drive from campus, they all had to hop back in the car and take me back to campus, and it was just so embarrassing. And I think it was, I think I was like, okay, I'm not the same as these people, but I will try to be. But yeah, and then I was there. I graduated when I was just turned 18, and then I moved to Sydney.
Yeah.
And during all this time, for you were gap yearing and whoppering.
Yes, well, I'm the same. I think we're the same in our states where we graduate at 17. I think Queensland and Perth,
yeah,
right?
I think 17, 18.
So Sydney's 18. I'm definitely a year younger than I would have been if I was here. So yes, so 17. That's right. I began my gap year, which was really, that was my introduction into the world that you kind of started in at 13. So, I started there, like I went out and got my agent. I got very involved in Waitco, which is the WA Youth Theatre Company. And that was really, like, I got roles there. I was like, no one was giving me a role in high school, but yay, people are casting me now. And it was so much fun. And I still have such great friends from that time. So Waco is, youth theatre company. It's, I'd say, the major one of those in WA. Yeah, it felt very professional when I was there. You know, it's not community theatre, I would say. It's, you know, it's, I guess, the equivalent to what ATYP is here.
Yeah.
So it felt very awesome to be there, and I got a real taste of the world. And I think after the first show I did there, Film Bites, my agency, said, oh, if there's any, you know, we love the cast, if there's anyone who needs representation, like, let us know. So I went up to this bizarre, they had their offices in this bizarre place that was nowhere near me, but went up on the bus and talked to them and got representation. I was right at the end of their age group for the, you know, because they were only kids kind of thing, but so I was right at the end of the age group that was kind of allowed to be with them. So that was the start of all that, and nothing really took off for me at this stage, you know, like Waco became a little bit of a fan to me. I didn't really have much success. I got really into, like, what's it called? The Australian Theatre Network. Oh, no, it wasn't Australian Theatre Network. It was one of those, you know, the casting agent, you know, the casting sites.
Oh, yeah.
I got really into that. Really kept tabs on what was going on. So that really began for me that year. And I was thinking quite a lot more seriously about acting and everything then. I guess importantly, I auditioned for Whopper straight out of school, 17. Okay. Didn't get a call back. This is my audition life. Then second year, I didn't want to audition for NIDA that year because I didn't want to do the move yet. Yeah. And then second year, and they also say, you know, 17-year-olds don't get in. Second year, I auditioned for both of them. That's right. Second year was the year I got in, right? So that was first year auditioned for WAPA, didn't get in, and that was, I knew I wouldn't, but still, you know, was a shot. In the water. Then didn't even know if that's what I wanted to do yet. Still thinking about what I was going to do. Interested in nursing. But by the end of that gap year, I was pretty convinced. I was like, okay, I'm going to enroll in nursing, and that's something I really want to do. But I'm also going to do the audition sector pretty hard. So I flew to Adelaide to do my VCA audition because they didn't come to Perth that year. And that was a pretty shocking experience. But I actually have two amazing friends that I made from it, you know, just from this bizarre experience. One of them is Kaori, who's running the initiative for young, disadvantaged, and people of colour, auditioning for drama schools now. So she's gone and done incredible things with her life, and she's a musical theatre star. But we all went to Adelaide. She came from Perth as well. That's how we kind of found each other. But we went to Adelaide for this audition, and it was a bizarre one. We had to write our own piece and perform it. And it was one of those ones that there was meant to be 2 audition rounds that day. And then I think for some reason they decided to cancel the second one. So everyone was in the first one. So there was maybe 40 of us all in the room together, all watching each other's audition pieces. And it just went. You can imagine watching that many freaking Shakespeare's and then this many original pieces by a bunch of kids who don't know how to do that yet, you know? It felt too early to ask people to do that. That's surely what you'd learn if you went there. And it was a long day. And I remember the auditionees were really late, the auditioners, because their plane was delayed because, you know, they were coming from Melbourne. And then at the end, we all were sitting together at the end waiting to find out who was going to stay for the rest of the day for callbacks. And 40 of us in this room, and they came out and they were like, thank you so much for today. We've decided not to call back anyone today, but thank you so much for coming. You know, we really appreciate it. And it was just devastating. And you know, when you're young and you fly, I really built this up. You know, I flew to Adelaide for this, so that was so funny. Funny to look back on now, anyway.
Oh my gosh.
But I did feel like I really got a sense of the different schools when I auditioned as well, which was nice. And I really enjoyed my NIDA audition. I got quite far in it. I think I got to the callback rounds. I came back for the second day. And I was one of 3 in that final room. And they very much said, you know, it was daunting, to do it in that big. They really take it very seriously. And I remember we had this guy on the year that I went for the first time, who's not there anymore. But he said to us all, "Everyone lean forward in your chairs." So we all leaned forward.
Oh my gosh!
And he was we were all sitting there like that. This is what being at drama school is about leaning in. You know, he had all these like wise words. Which
Wow.
but I was young and like taking it all in.
Oh yes, gosh.
Yeah. I remember my hearing cut out for a part of, like, you know, when your ears do weird things when you're really stressed?
Yeah.
Like, I just had this like intense level of stress. And for a whole day, you know, I was just, it meant so much to me. I built it up so much. And I really I did really enjoy my night audition. And I think that's really the school I would have loved to have gone to.
Yeah.
And then I got into the callback, and I was the only person from my day to do so. So that felt huge.
Wow, yeah.
And oh my gosh, when I didn't get to the end of the day on my callback, I got booted out in the afternoon, and I was devastated. I mean, that was like honestly such a, like, it felt like a romance heartbreak. You know, it's like a work gonna be my life now, and then it just gets, as an 18-year-old, just gets taken away from you again. So that was awful. I think I just went and cried somewhere in the city, you know, like it really just absolutely devastated me. Also had some amazing friends I still have from that audition. So Laura Jangara, who we both know very well, fantastic actress in Sydney. She was in my audition that year. I got in. So it's so funny how the industry all comes back around. And then I'd also auditioned for Whopper, and I got a callback, and then I got to the end of the callback and didn't get a call from them. But while all that was going on, with all the drama schools, you have other actors who are currently in the drama school helping out in the auditions. And it was Shari, who's also still a good friend. Again, I didn't see her again through my drama school experience, but she ended up being in Sydney with me later. She was at my audition, and she came and said that they've got this new course opening. It's been the first year of it. And she was really like, I'm really jealous that I couldn't have done it because it sounds so great. It's not just acting, it's also like singing and dancing. You're going to get a really all-round experience. Yeah, wow. And I thought, you know, great. And, you know, I was really still interested in writing at this point. I really loved creative writing. And I loved musical theatre. I was really into that idea still. I still thought I could be Elphaba one day. Definitely never going to happen.
You can be, Lucy.
Oh my God, I cannot dance the life of me, and I can't sing in public, so I'm kind of ruined there. But anyway, that really attracted me, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna give it a go. And my heart wasn't really in it yet. I was like, what is this? You know, I'm at this school, but what is this program at this, you know, like this is not the drama program that I want to do. And I kind of, like, it just had this whole, I had such an attitude to it. Like, I was like, I know I'm going to get in. I don't think there's many people audition for this thing, you know? And I got in, and I was kind of like expecting, like, it was just such a different experience of what it had been, like, auditioning for the drama program, which has been like life-changing. But I was like, I don't know, still, should I do this or should I do nursing? What is this course? And I remember I was on a little holiday in Sydney, and I rang the course coordinator, Frances Barb, who's fantastic. And she, you know, I had a chat to her, and she was pretty upfront and said that she also didn't really know what the course was going to be exactly yet, but they really wanted to tailor it to the students, which was like, you know, something that they couldn't offer in any of the course, which was really awesome. So I said, you know, I really want to do Shakespeare. Like, I love performing Shakespeare. And she said, yeah, we can, you know, if that's something you're interested in, we'll make it happen. And so yes.
She did it.
She did it. So I went to Whopper that way. And sorry, nursing, didn't become a nurse.
Well, the nursing industry, I'm sure, is missing you, but the performing industry is very glad we have you.
And clearly I'm giving so much more to the world as a performance maker than I would have been a nurse.
Saving lives, people.
Every day.
Okay, Emma. Well, I'm very surprised to find that recording two people's stories instead of just the one that we usually do is taking us double the time. So we're going to call that at the end of today's episode, but we really hope you do check in with us again in 2 weeks' time to hear the rest of this story. And that's going to be about our journeys through drama school, our experience with those, and retrospectively, would we do it again? That first year out and transitioning into the industry, as well as what we're doing now and what's on the horizon.
So join us in 2 weeks' time for episode 7 of Ask an Actor.